I have many names, but you can call me Marcus. I grew up in a really bad place, which I get constantly reminded of by a scar on my face. So, I know everything about crimes. Today I'll tell the story of a kind, open, and hardworking girl called Skylar Neese. She lived in a happy family with her father, Dave Neese, and her mother, Mary Neese, in Star City, West Virginia. Turning 16, Skylar's life was full of optimism. She had stunning grades, was pretty popular in school, and worked hard in Wendy's. Her parents approved her decisions to take the part-time job because it won't interfere with her studies. Skylar's friend circle was quite small despite having an attractive appearance, constant socialization, and a good sense of humor. According to people acquainted with the Neese family, she had a good relationship with her father and mother. Dave Neese worked as a packer in Walmart. Despite not having the highest position in the company, he was frequently labeled Employee of the Month and was a hardworking person. Skylar's mother, Mary Neese, worked at a hospital. Skylar also had two close friends, Rachel Schoaf and Sheila Eddy. Skylar met Sheila in a summer camp when she was a kid. Rachel joined them in high school. Sheila and Rachel could be called rightful members of the Neese family. They never separated and constantly visited each other. Skylar's classmates, colleagues, and clients made up the rest of her daily life. The life of a beautiful, dedicated, and charming Skylar Neese was starting to bloom. It looks like she had a perfect life. What could go wrong? Everything changed on the 6th of July, 2012. Skylar came home after her part-time job in the cafe, kissed her parents goodnight, and went to her room. This was the last dialogue she had with her parents. Dave Neese went up to Skylar's room to wake her up in the morning, but didn't find her, despite her untouched belongings. His concern grows when he asks about her in Wendy's and gets told that Skylar is nowhere to be seen. Knowing that she never missed her work, Dave Neese calls the police. He reports his daughter missing, but his words are not taken seriously by the police. He gets told that teenagers often leave their houses for a couple of days, stay at their friends' places, or simply rebel against their parents. Only after 48 hours did the police file a missing person report and begin their search. Just imagine the mental state of a loving father who had to wait 48 hours. He knew his daughter, and he knew that the search should be started immediately. The main, and only a bit of information regarding Skylar's disappearance, is footage from a CCTV camera. Skylar willingly gets into an unknown car and drives away from home. The inferior quality of the footage makes it impossible to determine the car's brand and license plate. The only certain thing, Skylar slipped away from her parents through the window and got in a car with someone she knew. Maybe Skylar knew the driver. After all, she got in the car herself. But what difference does it make? A loved daughter and a friend just disappeared. Skylar's parents ask social media for help regarding the investigation. Sheila runs across many blocks, pinning up posters of her friend, while Rachel mentions that she talked to Skylar at 2300, an hour before her disappearance. During the next 2 months, the Neese family gets many calls from people stating that they saw their daughter. Dave Neese personally investigates all the reports, but they are all false. Police propose that Skylar might have run away from home willingly, considering she got in the car herself. The hope that the girl might return doesn't fade away, despite the search dragging out. Sheila shows some signs of depression, asking Mary Neese to let her sleep in Skylar's room, hoping that it would make her return. After several months since Skylar's disappearance, the FBI joins the investigation. Due to insufficient information, they once again question Dave and Mary Neese, Sheila Eddy, Rachel Schoaf, and others. Agents get surprised by Rachel and Eddy's testimonies appear to be the same, as they discussed what they would say in advance. The FBI begins to think that telling the truth might threaten friends. The parents think that a drug or an alcohol accident might have occurred, and the girls are afraid of providing evidence of that, thinking it would get them in trouble. Skylar's friends are to be questioned again using a lie detector. The police begin to examine the movement of Sheila's car during the night of Skylar's disappearance. Thousands of tapes are investigated. A police officer finds out that Sheila's car leaves the city at 1 a.m., despite both girls claiming they were in the town the whole night. Suddenly, two friends helping the investigation become the main suspects in the case. Law enforcers come up with a trick. They instigate the bullying of Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf. It takes days for the community to catch up and cooperate with law enforcement officers. The girls are now outcasts at schools and ignored on the streets. The bullying gets so bad that Rachel has a mental breakdown and ends up in a hospital. Now it's time we get to the shocking culmination of this case. At the beginning of January 2013, Rachel Schoaf requests a meeting with investigators to reveal vital information regarding the case. After half a year of searching, the issue is finally getting somewhere. Agents expect to hear some information regarding the car driver or an accident, but Rachel's words truly shocked them. "We killed her, stabbed her to death." Just imagine the shocking hypocrisy and indifference we observe. Sheila came to Skylar's house, sat in her room being sad, touched her belongings, laid down on her bed, knowing that she had murdered her with her own hands. 16th of January 2013, 70 kilometers away from Star City, the scenery is filled with police cars. Officers are sweeping the forest next to the road. After a while, with the help of 17-year-old Rachel Schoaf, police officers find a bunch of unnatural-looking leaves and branches laying next to a river. Under them lies a mangled body of Skylar Neese. On the 6th of July, they took 2 knives, 2 shovels, cleaning supplies, and spare clothes. They picked up Skylar, claiming they wanted to smoke some weed and have fun together. Rachel and Sheila convinced her to drive around the city that night, but took her out of it, closer to Blacksville, next to the border with Pennsylvania. Then, using the same weed excuse, took a turn off the road and exited the car. Distracting Skylar with lighthearted dialogue, Rachel and Sheila counted to 3, took out the knives, and began to violently stab Skylar. The victim tried to run but didn't make it. Rachel and Sheila caught up to her and slit her throat. 50 stab wounds were discovered on the victim's body, all inflicted by her best friends. After that, they tried to bury the body, but the ground was damp and rough, so the friends covered it up with leaves and branches, swapped their clothes, and went home to play their roles. When asked, "Why did you kill her with such violence?" Rachel stated, "We didn't like her, didn't want to be friends with her." What? You just didn't like her? I was shocked by this heartless and devious answer. Sheila Eddy confessed a year later. Defense attorneys tried to appeal that the girls were underage, but West Virginia's state law made it clear that a person older than 14 is fully responsible for the murder. Sheila was charged and convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. She might request parole in 2028 if she behaves well. Rachel Schoaf was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 30 years of imprisonment. Rachel might request parole in 2023. When Rachel apologized to the family of Skylar during her sentencing, Skylar's father said, "You will never truly be sorry to my wife or me. You do not feel remorse." Alright, look, I know that the fury of women can be ruthless, but I never witnessed such brutality and indifference from close friends. Even after time, they didn't tell the true reason of Skylar's murder, which tells us about the complete lack of remorse. I suspect that the reason was trivial and silly. Sheila and Rachel are cold-blooded murderers, and they'll never belong in a civilized society. Tell if you think Rachel Schoaf and Sheila Eddy had other motives for such a violent murder. Share your opinion in the comments. And remember, always be careful choosing your friends.